Okay, first game we're going to be discussing is actually the one that arrived last, and it is the most exciting, I believe, of everything that we had in the lineup, and that was Astrobot. John, you kind of predicted this was going to happen.
Yes.
It would be arriving.
Yes.
And looks great, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I was extremely happy about this one because, the rest of the state of play we'll get to, but I love the Astrobot stuff. I think the VR game was incredible, and then the PlayStation 5 launch game that was included on every system, one of the best things that the PS5 has to date, I would say. And I think I've long wanted this kind of game to be made into a full, proper adventure. You know, the VR one was as well, I would say. But this looks like the kind of thing that I used to love from PlayStation back in the day. Like, this is the kind of stuff that they would make more regularly, like a proper celebration of this kind of stuff. And it's just beautiful. It looks beautiful. It looks fun. It's whimsical. It's nice. And it sort of builds on the aesthetic we saw in that PS5 demo.
Right.
I assume it's still their own technology.
Yeah.
And it looks like a potential, for me at least, could be a potential Game of the Year candidate. We'll see.
That's fantastic.
Very possibly. Mm-hmm. But some of the stuff we liked in there, though, is they're doing a lot with old school physics kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
With the water, with the world geometry getting smashed, a lot of fun things there.
Yeah.
The liquid part where they're kind of spraying the paint to reveal the hidden platforms and it's sort of dripping down and everything.
Yeah, it's something we haven't seen in games in a long time. In a game like this one, I mean, it's targeting 60 FPS, really obvious in the trailer. It's pretty much just like all the other games they did. It's, VR one is also 60-120 conversion, I think, originally, right? And so what do you do with all this GPU time if you're not pushing massive, super deformable Senua Saga level characters? Well, you spend that on cool GPU stuff. And I'm imagining this is like a GPU sim water thing. And you don't see that. I honestly can't even think the last game that wasn't a physics game that did anything interesting like that. Maybe there's that Sebaltonen game. I always forget the name of Claybook is the last time we saw actual fluid physics in a game that we've at least covered on the channel. So I'm excited to see that always. I'm also like John of the opinion that I'm not a huge Sad Dad Simulator fan, so I really love to see a game that is just celebrating gameplay and celebrating fun visuals and all that stuff. So especially one that targets 60 FPS, I'm always a fan of that. And if it's anything like the most recent endeavors on PC, like we got Sackboy on PC, I think we'll get this eventually at some point on PC too. It'll be interesting to see what they do there too.
I'd be curious though, because this is so one of the things about it is it is actually still a Japanese team developing it.
Right.
So I feel like that could potentially make that conversion less likely somehow, because Sony hasn't really brought Japanese games yet to the PC, have they?
I mean, what other games are you thinking about? Sorry.
Well, they haven't. Any of the Japanese studio games haven't really come, have they?
We've not seen. Basically, maybe they.
Oh, you're talking about Gran Turismo.
We haven't seen
Gran Turismo is the one, and even some Jensen's Prophecy, but
there
just hasn't been any attempt over the. Maybe you're right because it just hasn't been many
done yet,
which is part of the problem actually. But,
we'll get to that later.
No, so maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's hard to say because we don't know what those relationships with the porting studios are like in terms of what kind of...
If they have a porting studio is another question, right?
But I am happy that, they still at least have this team doing Japanese development. And you know what, you mentioned the Sad Dad stuff. We joke about that a lot. I think they make a lot of great games. And the reason we complain about it is more it felt like the lineup contracted and it's very small now, very few games released, and a lot of them are just these dark, kind of overly serious experiences. And what used to make PlayStation great was the fact that they had variety. You did have more serious stuff, but then you had the more whimsical stuff. You had unexpected, quirky things. There's just a wide range of software.
Yeah.
And that's how Sony used to be. That's what made PS1 and 2 and even 3 so great.
Yeah.
Was that wide variety, all those studios. And now they've shrunk their lineup of studios so small. It takes so long to make the games. When you think about how much stuff had released for the PS2 at 4 years after launch, like it was absolutely nuts, and we just don't have that anymore. It's not really feasible with the way games are made these days.
Yeah.
So I am happy that they essentially invested in this and allowed this to still happen, because it just looks I actually also love that they're doubling down on that sort of bringing in PlayStation hardware and like physical things into the game world and references to other games.
Yeah.
I think that's fun and cute. That last shot where they're all in space and all the Astrobots are riding on all the different consoles in Sony's history through space. I think that's really cute and fun, and it feels like a genuine game that's designed to just be happy and bring joy.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Because I think that's one of the reasons that Astrobot on the pre-pack-in game was just so fantastic. It was actually a joyous console game, bright primary colors,
Yep.
oozing with character, just incredibly stylized visuals and effects. And you're seeing it all right here. I'm watching the trailer play out here, and it's just absolutely fantastic. If it is a continuation of everything that we've seen before in that first game, I'm just really looking forward to this. I don't think any game as yet has managed to better its DualSense implementation.
No, definitely not.
So we should be seeing some great DualSense stuff there as well.
Also 80 levels, it says, I think.
They said that? Really?
80?
Something like that. Like, it's big. It's
So
a
it's like
big game.
So it's like Mario Galaxy style, you think?
I don't know, but it looks like a full gigantic game. Like,
Yeah, that would explain the dev time, because I was about to ask you about it, because we talked about like smaller, you said like larger games, that hence this like larger development time, but this must have been too like a larger development time.
I don't think this is a small game at all. It seems like a really big project, and I saw some people say it better not be $70, but I put my money on saying that this is probably worth 70. This is more worthy of being $70 than just about everything else they've released this gen.
The thing is, there is a lot of callbacks to like PlayStation lore, as you pointed out, in terms of the devices, but also in the characters.
And
there's Parappa in there, and it just reminds me of the Sony of the past, right? The PlayStation of the past, which was a rich, diverse range of different games, and not exclusively single player narrative or live action as live service games. So it's kind of like sort of calling back to a generation gone, which I'm kind of bummed about. And you look at a game like this and you know that this game is going to be hugely successful. It's the type of game that Nintendo makes and has made and continues to make with big success.
And I think they might actually be able to pull this off, because one, the pack-in game being included with PS5, a lot of people experienced it. I think that they associate that with playing PS5 for the first time. They remember the DualSense controller. But then on top of that, the characters themselves are extremely memorable. They're super cute. They're fun. They do a lot of fun stuff with it. Like, I genuinely think that just attracts people. Even people that really aren't super into games see those characters like, oh, that's super cute. That's awesome. Which means I do think they actually have a shot at selling a lot of copies of this and possibly being very successful. I mean, the reaction, if you look at like the trailers, had a ton of views, and like the comments are almost universally like super positive. Like, people seem super jazzed by this, and I hope it's a success and they take a lesson from this. Like, okay, we need to encourage more of this kind of stuff, because that's really what that variety would be great.
Yeah, September 6th, 2024 release date, which is also cool because actually it turns out there's a lot of games coming out in that window.
Terrifying.
But there's nothing like this.
I'm going to cover that before I go back to Tokyo. I think I should be out of time for that. And I can't wait. Like, that's way up there on my list of like games to be excited about.
But we've had kind of like a dearth of first-party Sony titles this year. I guess Helldivers is the sort of exception to that. But this kind of has worked to the advantage of this game because there's nothing else from Sony coming.
I'm thinking about that though. I was thinking about it with the state of play. It's just a state of play, not the showcase. This got me thinking. I wonder if they're holding some things back to show alongside the PS5 Professional.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later on, because right now it does seem as though Astrobot is the only first-party title that's going to launch with the console.
Yeah.
And, that's slightly problematic for a new console launch.
What if it's 120 frames per second?
Well, maybe.
Oh, yeah, it probably would be
rad, dude.
Anything here, I mean, CPU-wise, it didn't look like anything that would break the bank. It looked like a game.
Well, a lot of physics.
Yeah,
possibly.
GPU-based stuff, though, I think.
It could be. You don't know.
Could be. We don't know.